Okay, thanks for having me. My name is Bryan Versteeg. I'm going to talk about the early conceptual designs of the layout for the SAM accommodations. I'm very excited to be part of this project. I think it's going to be an extremely useful facility, and probably want to spend a fair bit of time there myself. So I'm a uh, conceptual designer in architecture and engineering industries, and I've been focusing on space exploration for about 10 years. And so what I've been doing is helping to explore the potential of this space and make sure that we can get as much out of it as possible. So I'm going to show you some of the early designs that are at this point more to keep the discussion going and so that we can engage the most number of people and ensure that we create a facility that is the most useful to the most number. So to start with, we've been talking about using cargo containers to define the structure. So at this point, we're talking about 3 cargo containers. Each cargo container, once we finish the inside walls, plumbing and electrical, it gives us a clearance of about 7 feet across and 39 feet long or so. So that's the inside dimension. So it's about 273 square feet per cargo container. So this is a view with all the roofs taken off, so that we can kind of get an idea and see inside it. So if we lay these out, we have 2 together and a long one that heads over towards the test module, which is the glazed enclosure. The 2 that are side by side, in order to economize in the amount of materials needed while maximizing the space, we've talked about putting a 4-foot corridor between the 2 modules. Require a minimal amount of material to enclose this, but because the modules are only have clearances of 7 feet each, there's really not a lot of space, a lot of things you can do within that 7 feet. If you also have to have a corridor or hallway or enough room to walk through things. So that brings us 7 feet down to about a 4 feet clearance. So if we have the center corridor for our walkways, it means we have a lot more space to play with, and we can actually create more usable spaces. So I'm going to talk about a couple of these spaces. First is this corridor that heads to the test module. So the test module will be on the left-hand side, and we have a room that'd be an airlock that goes into the test module. So this first corridor is really, it's a working corridor. At this point, we want it to be a versatile space. I've shown it having a bunch of different uses, and it could be used differently for every mission that uses a facility. So there'd be some common equipment that would be there, and it would be things like work tables. We could have some 3D printers. There'd be some storage. And so if you had repairs to do or something like that, this is probably where you do it. This space, a lot of the space could be left open for things like exercise space, or if you wanted to do some smaller hydroponics, or depending on what the use would be, a lot of this could just be wide open so that each mission could bring in their equipment, and this is where it would go. To move into the crew quarters, so this is doing some space layout to see how we could accommodate all the different needs of the crew. One of the main things, we're really limited by floor space. We don't have a lot to work with. And so we're trying to figure out how best to accommodate a crew of up to 4 people. And ideally, they have to have private sleeping quarters. But how much more they have, we have a couple of different options to work with. And it goes from quite literally enclosed bunk beds to something fair bit larger. There's absolutely none of our varieties have anything luxurious, and we're trying to figure out what is the best use of space while still accommodating the needs of the user. So something like this, we have, it would take up very little floor space, roughly 11 square feet per person, because we're stacking these enclosed bunk beds essentially. They could have a hard door that closed shut, so you would have sound buffering, and full privacy within, but not really a lot of room to do anything else in there. So it could be limiting. That might be limiting to the type of people who would apply. And so there's a lot of different ways to think about how much space we're going to use. This is more volume than you'd have, than each crew member would have on the International Space Station, but still a lot less space than a person would have, say, in a small dorm room or something. So we're trying to figure out where's the happy medium. So this is a version we've been talking about as well. It's a Zig Zag accommodation, essentially the bunk beds, except each bunk is actually in a different room because we've staggered the rooms and such so that the beds themselves are taking up the same amount of space, floor space, as if they were just bunk beds, but we've attached a living volume next to each bed so that each person has the accommodations that they would generally find in larger rooms. So if we look a little closer into this, what's not shown here is there would be a wall enclosing this. I've just taken the wall out so that we can see inside. And so the wall gives you complete privacy. It's a full height space. So once you walk into your room, you can stand up to have you can change. You have each room has its own bench and chair. There's a fair bit of storage for personal effects. A table that folds down from the wall so that if you wanted a private a working area or a desk. So this gives a fair bit of versatility to the spaces. Everyone gets a fair bit of space that's just private to them while still economizing the total square footage that we have available to us. So to talk about the residential area, the crew quarters, the social area, we've got a kitchen, table for eating. The table can be multi-use. It could be workspace if it's needed. If we on the left-hand side, there's the airlock, which heads out to the field or to the yard, the Mars yard, and then inside that there's the EVA storage. So this is where we're going to store the suits or boots or equipment that you would be bringing outside. So this is kind of a dirty room so that none of the things that go outside actually come all the way into the crew quarters. This is the intermediate zone right here. And then we flip this around so you can see the other side. There's a versatile working space, which could be configured so that it would be good for up to 4 people. There's couches, there's chairs. So there is a place to be comfortable, as well as an enclosed bathroom, and everyone gets their own bedroom. Ideally, this is a very versatile space. Nothing's, well, as much as possible is mobile furniture that can be reconfigured depending on a certain amount of reconfiguring available for each mission that comes in, so that depending on what their needs are, they'll have the spaces available for them. And that's really about it. At this point, it's this is more to elicit more conversation. We're still obviously looking for comments, suggestions, requests. If there is something you would really like to see that this should accommodate, then bring it up sooner than later, and look forward to hearing any feedback. So thank you very much.
Great, Bryan, thank you. That's a wonderful overview, and it's, as I've shared with the team before, it's been a pleasure working with you the last couple of years to guide the vision for SIMOC and SAM, and we're excited to have you down as soon as COVID allows and participate in the construction. The only thing that you may not like is that since our last on-site visit, we've come up with a new layout. So we're gonna have to shuffle things around a bit, but I think I understand why we're doing it. It's not that big of a change. It's mostly the same, just a little bit of a shuffle, but thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure.